Hi, this is John from FlatCatGear. For the past couple days, I've been kind of brainstorming ideas about what you would do is if you start running low on fuel. Now, everyone's done this before where they either calculated how much alcohol they needed and they were wrong, the water temperature or the air temperature was cooler than they thought, so they needed more alcohol, or you accidentally spilled alcohol and all of a sudden you find yourself running short. Well, in brainstorming this, and I actually tested out a couple ideas, I actually found a pretty cool solution that I really like. So let me describe this for you first. When you take something like our FlatCatGear stove and fill it with alcohol, you light it and this flame front will show up, and the flame front will be about the diameter of the stove, a little bit larger. So I had this crazy idea about what would happen if I put wood in there. So here's a chart from Zen stoves. What's interesting, you can see that we have methanol and ethanol, and they have pretty high energy stored values. But if you look at dry wood is maybe 70–80% that of methanol, which is pretty good. So the thought is, well, what if I did this hybrid stove? And I'm calling it as kind of a crossover burn mode, where we start burning alcohol, the wood stays in the center, and then the alcohol starts dying down and starts burning the wood. And that's exactly what happened. So I was able to take 10 milliliters of denatured alcohol, put it in the stove. Now that wouldn't get it to a boil. That'll get me maybe 2/3 of the way there. But then I put 12 grams of wood on top of that, and I stacked it carefully. And I was actually able to boil 2 cups of water. And not only boil 2 cups of water, but it simmered for another 5 or 10 minutes. And this is what it looks like. In messing around with this, it's actually kind of interesting because this is a way, it saves you 1/3 of your alcohol if you use some wood. So I see this as primarily I see this as an emergency backup. You're low on fuel, get some dry twigs, put it in there, put it in your stove. Now, I know we can do this in our FlatCat stoves because they're made of stainless steel and titanium. I don't know how it's going to perform in an aluminum stove, but I know our stoves are going to be fine. The other thing you could do this with is if you're an ultralight backpacker, this is a way to bring 1/3 less fuel, is by using wood. Now the other neat aspect is, since I'm using a little bit of alcohol and a little bit of wood, I'm not getting a huge wood fire, as you can see from these pictures. This is a very controlled flame. So I'm pretty comfortable this is going to work out well in the Bobcat windscreen. The other thing about doing this is, since you're doing an alcohol-wood hybrid, you actually create less smoke and there's actually less soot on the pot. Here's a picture of the pot before I started the testing, and here's a picture afterwards. You can see there, it's not too bad. So what are the disadvantages of doing this? Well, one is it's a slower boil time. With this alcohol-wood mix, my boil times were in the neighborhood of 12 minutes, and if you don't stack the wood carefully, it could be as long as 15 minutes. So the second disadvantage is there's a skill set required. Alcohol simple, you pour the alcohol in, you light it. With this methodology, you put the alcohol in and you kind of have to stack the wood in the right pattern so you can get enough airflow to get the wood to burn. The other advantage is I'm only using 12 grams of wood. I'm not using big piles of wood. I'm using a small amount. So this kind of got some neat environmental impact. With our FlatCat stove, you are going to end up with some residual ash in the stove. But again, this has not been a problem. You can shake it out, you could wash it out, whatever. Getting residuals in the stove is not going to hurt the performance of a FlatCat stove. So anyway, it's an interesting concept. I think you should go out and try it if you have a FlatCat stove. You might try it if you have an alcohol stove, just to see, if it's going to melt or not, on a sacrificial one. But this is something that it's a cool technique. You've got to go out. It's a skill. You got to learn how to stack the wood and light it. But you could save 1/3 of the amount of fuel that you would normally carry.